Hello everyone. In this issue, we would like to introduce you to the little-known true face of one of the most controversial composers in the history of music, Richard Wagner. Wagner was born in 1813 in Leipzig, Germany, still in the turmoil of the Napoleonic Wars. Wagner was a genius composer who created brilliant masterpieces such as Tannhäuser, Tristan und Isolde, and The Ring of the Nibelung, that have shone brilliantly in the history of music. However, his real image was far more dramatic and sometimes far-fetched than what is written in textbooks. What do you think of when you hear the name Wagner? Magnificent orchestration? Innovative harmonic techniques? Or the sad history of his later exploitation by Nazi Germany? In fact, behind such a common image, there is a surprising fact hidden that no one could have imagined. In this video, we will introduce such a surprising true face of Wagner from several different perspectives. Most of what we will discuss are facts revealed through Wagner's own diaries and letters, as well as through the testimonies of those who were around him. In particular, his wife Cosima's diary, published in 1972, and previously unpublished letters discovered in the 2000s have greatly changed the conventional image of Wagner. These documents have been meticulously verified by leading Wagner scholars, who have confirmed their authenticity. Although at times the outlandish details may surprise you, they are all based on historical facts. Wagner's music continues to fascinate music fans around the world today. Behind it all lies an astonishing truth that no one knew. Let us take you to the unknown world of Richard Wagner. Chapter 1. Wagner as a revolutionary. In May 1849, the city of Dresden was in the flames of revolution. Fierce urban battles between the Royal Army of Saxony and the revolutionary forces. One man was at the center of the chaos. Why did he throw himself into the revolution despite his high-ranking position as the chief musician of the Dresden court? It all started in 1848. The year was 1848, a time of revolutionary upheaval throughout Europe, known as the Spring of the Nations. Wagner, who was 36 years old at the time, had already produced several successful works, including Rienzi, The Wandering Dutchman, and Tannhäuser. But in his heart, his thirst for artistic innovation and his passion for social change were growing stronger every day. Of particular note is the revolutionary pamphlet he wrote, Art and Revolution. In it, Wagner asserted that true art can only flourish in a free society. He strongly criticized the domination of art by the aristocracy of the time and advocated a new way of art for the people. Artists should be able to devote themselves to purely creative activities without being bound by money or power. The current theater has become a slave to the capitalistic entertainment industry. Without a true revolution in the arts, there can be no revolution in society. These assertions were visionary enough to be accepted as contemporary art theory. In actual revolutionary activity, Wagner was more than just a sympathizer. He played an important role in the Revolutionary Army, especially in the communication of information. He transmitted signals from the Revolutionary Guard towers, procured gunpowder and grenades, and even made speeches to boost the morale of the revolutionary forces. His activities were wide-ranging. Of particular interest are the diaries he wrote during the revolution. The previously unpublished diary, discovered in 2015, vividly conveys his passion for the revolution and, at the same time, his anguish as an artist. Today, too, the sound of gunfire echoes through the streets. But in my head the melody of a new musical play is ringing. If this revolution succeeds, it will surely open up new artistic horizons. From his diary, May 3, 1849, however, the revolution ends in failure. The Prussian army intervened, and the revolutionary forces were devastated. Wagner was called upon to face the death penalty and hurriedly fled to exile in Switzerland. If it had not been for the help of his close friend Franz Liszt, he would certainly have been captured. His exile lasted a total of 12 years. Paradoxically, however, this difficult period was an important turning point in his creative career. In the solitude of his exile, he immersed himself in Norse mythology and medieval legends to formulate his later magnum opus, The Ring of the Nibelung. His theoretical work, opera and drama, written during this period, also contained revolutionary arguments that radically overturned the conventional conception of opera. The political revolution had failed, but the artistic revolution was steadily underway. Chapter 2. Wagner as a debt king. The debt collector came again today. But I have no choice but to run away. An artist should create in the best of circumstances. This is a line from a letter Wagner wrote to a friend. Wagner's debts totaled an astonishing several hundred million yen in today's terms. However, it is not appropriate to dismiss this as the unplanned spending of a mere spendthrift. The reason for this is deeply related to the harsh conditions in which artists were placed at that time and his unique artistic philosophy. In 19th century Europe, the social status of musicians was very different from that of today. Many musicians had to choose between relying on aristocratic patrons or writing compromise works in search of commercial success. Wagner, however, chose neither of these paths. His luxurious lifestyle was the very practice of his artistic philosophy. Fine silk robes, the finest furniture, aromatic perfumes. These were not mere luxuries, but an essential part of his creative environment. His favorite silk robe, for example, cost the equivalent of a craftsman's annual salary. The perfume he sprayed all over his room was the finest, specially imported from Paris. The writing desk was specially made of high-grade, custom-made wood. To cover these expenses, however, he was constantly in debt. His escapes were also truly ingenious. The most famous episode is known as the coffin affair. In 1864, while being chased by debt collectors in Vienna, he attempted to escape by hiding in a real coffin. The coffin was transported in a horse-drawn carriage, during which Wagner hid under his breath. Another interesting anecdote is that of the womanizing escape. Recently discovered testimonies reveal that in Paris in 1859, Wagner walked the streets wearing fine women's dresses to deceive debt collectors. Another common tactic was escaping from the second floor. When debt collectors would appear in front of his house, he would jump out of an upstairs window into the yard and escape through the back streets. He always escaped with a sheet of music at this time, an episode that is typical of him. At first glance, these anecdotes may seem comedic. However, behind them lurked a serious problem facing artists in the 19th century. The turning point was an encounter with King Ludwig II of Bavaria in 1864. The young king, then 18 years old, was an ardent Wagner fan. The king was so enchanted by Wagner's music that he not only took all his debts on his shoulders, but also gave him a pension and even promised to build him his own theater. However, this patronage relationship was also complicated. Ludwig II's favor was so powerful that it sometimes threatened Wagner's creative freedom. The king demanded special performances for himself, sometimes summoning him to the castle in the middle of the night to play music for him. In addition, the enormous expenditures on Wagner put a strain on the finances of the Kingdom of Bavaria, and even led to political problems. In 1866, the citizens of Munich even staged a demonstration calling for Wagner's banishment. These musicians are eating up our tax dollars. Has the king lost his mind? Wagner must go. Under such criticism, Wagner was once again forced to leave Munich. However, King Ludwig II's support continued and eventually bore fruit in the form of the construction of the Bayreuth Festival Theatre. The Bayreuth Festival Theatre still reigns as one of the world's great musical centers today. The cost of the Bayreuth Festival Theatre, which still stands today as one of the world's great music halls, amounted to about 5 billion yen in modern terms. However, the fruit of the King of Debtors dream continues to fascinate music fans around the world. Chapter 3. Wagner as Pet and Animal Advocate. The progress of mankind is measured by our compassion for the weak. These were the words of Wagner in his later years. This may come as a surprise, but Wagner was an ardent animal rights activist throughout his life. He was particularly opposed to animal experimentation, and left behind numerous articles and letters in which he spoke out against the cruelty of such practices. His animal rights stance was extremely progressive for his time. In 1879, when he wrote a letter of protest against animal experimentation at the University of Leipzig, he stated, "Cruelty committed in the name of science is not progress for mankind, but rather a sign of regression. Compassion for living things is the mark of true civilization." This assertion was strongly opposed by the scientific community of the time. However, he never relented and remained true to this belief throughout his life. He always had many pets at home. In particular, his love for dogs was extraordinary. His most famous dog was Rob, a Newfoundland. Rob was always by Wagner's side during the composition of The Wandering Dutchman. Interestingly, the overture to the opera includes a motif reminiscent of a dog's bark in its depiction of the raging sea. This is said to be an image of Rob waiting faithfully for his master in the midst of a storm. The most moving episode is the one that took place at the time of the death of his beloved dog, Pueps. When Pueps died, Wagner seriously tried to hold a Buddhist funeral. This was an extremely unusual choice in Europe at the time, but Wagner believed in the equality of all living souls. He always kept his pets by his side while composing, and talked to them from time to time as he worked. He composed Siegfried Pastoral while watching his dogs playing in the garden. The gentle descriptions of nature in his works reflect the peaceful time he spent with his pets. Now that we have introduced you to the unexpected side of Wagner, what do you think? Revolutionary, debt king, animal rights activist. These seemingly disparate aspects were in fact all closely connected to his art. His participation in the revolution came from his passion for an ideal artistic environment. His obsession with luxurious living as a prerequisite for creating the best art. His deep love for animals as an artistic philosophy of harmony with nature. These elements are intricately intertwined to create that magnificent music. The image of Wagner we know may in fact be only one aspect of it. As of 2024, Wagner's music continues to be performed and reinterpreted around the world. His innovative musical language, his grandiose conception of his operas, and his seriousness about his art have much to offer us today. Above all, his life itself was a grand drama in pursuit of his ideals as an artist. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and like our channel. See you next time.